Just checking the clock. Morning, it's still morning, isn't it? You've got to check when you have a two-service church. Morning, everyone. Ah, that was lovely, wasn't it? I really enjoyed that. Sometimes, well, not just sometimes, always it's lovely just to bask a bit, isn't it? Just to relax a little bit and let it all happen and around you and be part of it. And I don't know what phrase you're supposed to use for those moments, but I just enjoy. We used to say soaking a bit, didn't we? I don't know whether that's soaking, showering. I don't know what it is, but it's just, I just love, this one thing that I missed more than anything, I think, in lockdown was not worshiping with fellow believers. I love it. I absolutely love it. So really appreciate the worship team leading us and, the Lord for being here. Amen. Great. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of things this morning. One is talk to you from the Bible. It's never a bad move, is it? But the other thing is just to draw your attention to some books that I've written, which are available to buy on your way out. You can pay by card, by phone, even by cash. Do you remember those heady days when you had to pay by cash? So however you want to pay, you can pay apart from hire purchase. We're not doing that, okay? But all these are books that I've written. I'm going to fly through them, not because of time or anything like that, but because basically I want to really get stuck into what I want to share with you from God's word. So let me just say that I'll whiz through these, hopefully give you enough information so that you know what they're about. But please come and ask me any questions at the end. I won't be rushing off. I'll be there. Ask me any questions. Have a little flick through. But just put your seatbelt in for a breakneck speed explanation of what these books are all about. So Big Yes, Little Yes, Healthy may be a new framework for evangelism. Genuinely, I felt God gave me a language to help us to understand the process by which people come to faith. How many of you know that when it comes to people becoming Christians, it's a bit of a journey? And sometimes it's a longer one, sometimes it's a shorter one. But I've been doing this now since 1988. And I've never once met a person that's been to bed an atheist and woke up wanting to become a Christian. I'm not saying they're not out there, I'm just saying I haven't met them. And when you think that, what's that? I'm rubbish at sums. I got unclassified in my maths. Is that about 34, 35 years, traveling about 35,000 miles a year all over the UK? You'd have thought I'd have met somebody. But what I have met is loads and loads of people who've been on some kind of journey and over a period of time have embraced, understood certain elements of the Christian faith that have caused them to make a decision. That's what this book is about. I actually believe it's the biblical way. So see why by having a read in that. So it helps you to understand that journey, but loads of practical tips as well on how to share your faith. So that's that book. And then with that, because some people like to study books, some people like to read them. So this, if you're a studier of a book, then there's a study guide here to accompany the book. Now, you can buy that without buying that. Well, you can buy that without buying that as well, but it'll make no sense. So you shouldn't buy that without buying that. You need to buy either that one on its own or both of them, but don't buy that on its own. I'm just letting you know because some people have tried to buy the study guide, and I'm thinking, well, and there ain't. I said, why are you buying that without that? I said, well, it's cheaper. I thought only Yorkshire people talk like that. Do you know what I mean? I could say that because I am one, okay? So that's that one. Anyway, I need to be careful because I'm at risk of talking too much about the books here. Right, let me mention these few first. So this book here, Is It Possible, is aimed at challenging / gently nudging people who aren't Christians to become open-minded. about the Christian faith. It's often one of the biggest challenges in personal evangelism. So it's about nudging the atheist to consider there could be a God, or for the person that's decided Christianity isn't for them, but they've never really looked into it or known anything about it. You know, when they say, well, it's all right for you, but not for me. And so it's just a book really it's not a big gospel preach at people. That's not the win. That's not the aim. It's just to gently nudge people, say, you look, is it possible? Okay, so that's that one. Great conversation starter. This one, Look Closer, does what it says on the tin. It helps people to investigate, particularly the gospel message and how it applies and explains different concepts and elements and parts of it. So that's to help people explore. And then this one here is, see why you might need to ask questions at the end. This one here is for people who've just said yes to God or are very, 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 very close. Often they can appear the same. Okay, but that's for those who are very close. Now, these 3 books here all have testimonies in them. How many of you know that testimonies are really, really powerful? I mean, I like a testimony, don't you? Quite frankly, it does loads of good for my own faith when I listen to people's testimonies. So they've all got loads of testimonies in, but they've all got different ways in them where people can go and investigate a little bit more digitally or online, for example. Okay, so that's those 3 books. And then this book here is to help you answer people's tricky questions. When you begin to journey with people, you'll find they have lots of questions. And my experience is the more I build relationally with people, the more genuine those questions tend to be. If I'm just doing evangelism with people that I don't really know, they tend to be the same questions, but people are asking them to trip you up a little bit. Whereas generally speaking, the more and more relationships you have with people, you'll find that some of those same questions come from a little bit more of a different place. That's that one. And then the final one is Faith Book, a guide to sharing your faith with other faiths. And we look at the sort of the most common, I think there's 14 different faiths and cults in, well, there's more than this in the UK, but these are the most prominent ones. And it looks at how we can sensitively build relationship with them, and then helps us to understand the difference that they might have about death and about sin, the view that we have on it, how it differs with people from different religions and cults. I will just say one further thing in here. The first chapter is, they are not the enemy. People of other faiths are not our enemies. Our enemy is not a physical enemy. It's a spiritual enemy. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and powers in the heavenly places. So whilst Jesus definitely is the only way to God, and no one comes to the Father but through him, they're not our enemies. They're people, they're fellow pilgrims in the world. They're human beings with dignity, and we need to remember that and help ourselves to get better equipped to understanding where they're coming from and how they live and how sincere they are, and how they actually and often challenges the way we live our faith. I'm from Bradford originally, and my minister, I will just say this one thing and then I'll shut up about the books. I'm not going to mention the name, but one of the ministers of my church genuinely used to say the difference between, and for us it was Islam in Bradford at the time, the difference between Islam and Christianity is that Christianity is a way of life, Islam isn't. Now I felt, that's interesting, because sometimes for us as Christians, our Christian faith isn't always a way of life. And often people who were from the Muslim background had a greater commitment to their faith often than Christians did. I understood what he was saying, but I felt, that sometimes I think we just got to be a little bit wise, a little bit careful, because sometimes patronize people from. You hear what I'm saying? Jesus is the only way, the truth and life. No one comes to the Father but through him. But let's journey with. Anyway, enough on that one. So if you like those, well, you won't know unless you bought it. If you want those to help you, let me encourage you to get yourself equipped to better share your faith. Is that all right? Lovely. Right, should we get stuck into the Bible now? Okay, so that's the promotion bit over and done with. Let's have a little chat, see what God might want to say to us through his word. He's been speaking to us loads already, hasn't he? He doesn't just speak through his word. He speaks through the worship. He speaks through sharing, and I love it. So I love that space that we have. this morning. Do you ever ask somebody, how are you? Have you ever done that? Have you ever gone, how are you? And then when you've asked them, you wished you hadn't. Have you ever done that? Yeah. And maybe you're one of those people that wants somebody to say to you this morning, how are you? Because you've got a lot you want to say. Yeah, well, I'm not all right, actually. And how many of you know that, like, if I said, how are you today, let's say you're fine today, but if I asked you the same question tomorrow, you might not be so fine. Or even in the same day, how many of you know you can feel fine in the morning and not so fine in the afternoon? And I think we've all had a bit of an emotional roller coaster, haven't we? Without wishing to keep mentioning COVID. Don't want to keep going on about it, but it has. And I didn't enjoy it. Oh, no. I'm probably the most extrovert there is. Like, never invite me to your home. I'm warning you. And if you do, don't say make yourself at home, because I'll be there for a few weeks. I won't go. I'll rummage through your drawers and everything, all right? So for me, it was quite a tough ride. And now I'm out and about and meeting people and eating with people. Like, my emotional tank's back up to somewhere near it needs to be. But I do want to ask you this morning, not because of COVID, not because of illness or anything like that. I just want to ask you this morning, how are you? How are you? And I want us to have a look at a few different areas, and then maybe we can reflect on that as we go through. To help us do that, let's go to the best place ever when we need to think about faith and life, the Bible. So if you're familiar with the Bible, you'll understand what I mean when I say turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, 11 to 21. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, 11 to 21. And this is one of my life passages. I've got about 5 or so life passages, which is passages where God's really done something in my life. And this is one of those passages I could probably preach for hours on. And I won't, notwithstanding Michelle saying chill out and relax. But I won't, I promise you. But it's just, there's so much in it. So much in it that gets me giddy with excitement. So let's read together. Since then we know what it is to fear the Lord, we try to persuade men. What we are is plain to God, and I hope it's plain to your conscience. We're not trying to commend ourselves to you again, but are giving you an opportunity to take pride in us, so that you can answer those who take pride in what is seen rather than what is in the heart. If we're out of our mind, it's for the sake of God. If we are in our right mind, it's for you. For Christ's love compels us, because we are convinced that one died for all, and therefore all died. And he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who died for them and was raised again. So, from now on, we regard no one from a worldly point of view. Though we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, they are a new creation. The old has gone, the new has come. All this is from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. That God was reconciling the world to himself in Christ, not counting men's sins against them. And he has committed to us the message of reconciliation. We are therefore Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. That's a passage in it. If that don't get you excited, give your life to Jesus for goodness sake. That's an absolute belter. That one is that'll preach quite a lot, that one will. So how are you? First question, how are you smelling? It's a bit risky, isn't it, on church? Turn to the person next to you and smell them. No, don't. Well, you can do if you're desperate, all right? How are you smelling? What a stupid question mark to be asking in church. What are you chatting about? What is all that about? Bear with me. I've got 2 daughters. One is 17 and a half, and the other is 15 and a half. Now, I don't know if this is usual with dads that have 2 daughters, but I do find they gang up on me. Sometimes they use their mum as well. But they used to gang up on me a lot when they were a bit younger. And they'd come in to the sitting room and they wanted something. And they'd sit on my knee and they'd kiss me on my balding bit. And they'd say, "Love you, Daddy. Love you. Love you, Daddy." Well, it doesn't really matter what they were going to ask now, does it? Yes, you can. You can have it twice if you want. Let me know if you haven't got enough. It's like, I'm gone, I'm done. They've whittled me down to a crumbling wreck. And so they used to know how to ask me for things. And they also used to know, and they still do, who to ask. They knew that if they went to mum for certain things, they're likely to get it. If they went to dad for most things, they're likely to get it. And so they knew who to ask. They knew how to ask. And they knew when to ask. Like they knew I'm not a morning person. Like this morning has killed me coming here. I mean, obviously I'm very excited to be here with you, just to say, but it was an early rise facilitated by a McDonald's breakfast. It's got to be done, hasn't it? It's my golden rule. If I have to be on the road before 6 o'clock, I have to have a double sausage McMuffin meal, an extra hash brown and a cappuccino. I feel like I'm digressing. When you said take your time, I don't think you meant to that level, did you? I feel like I've kind of, taken the luxury on a little bit and overstepped. But I just thought you might like to know. Did you like to know? Okay. Oh, well, hello. That's a bit keen. It's a bit keen. Yeah, absolutely. So, so I'm not a morning person. So if they're going to ask me something on the morning, it can't be before 7. And if it is going to be at 7, it's got to be with a cup of tea. If you do that and then ask me, that's fine. And so they wouldn't come in like really confident and demonstrative and kind of like giving me no way out. They didn't come in an argumentative, persuasive way, full of confidence. No, they didn't do that. They used to come in and through sweetness, they would convince. That came from somewhere, didn't it? Might be some issues still need to be resolved there. Through their sweetness, they'd know that they could convince me that what they were asking for was really what I should be giving them. Why am I telling you this? Turn to our reading this morning. Let your eyes go to that little number 11, verse 11. And it says this: since then we know what it is to fear the Lord, we try to persuade men. Now it's interesting, this verse, because it says, since then we know what it is to fear the Lord. There's a confidence to that verse, isn't it? Like as believers, we know, don't we? Now we have wobbles. Oh, I've had a wobble or two. Anybody else had a wobble or two? I've had a wobble or two in my faith. And I'll probably have a few more wobbles. That's a Greek word, wobble, by the way, okay? We will have wobbles. So it doesn't mean there hasn't been times when I feel a bit weak or a bit wobbly. But somehow inside you just kind of know that you know. Even though your brain and your heart plays and messes with you sometimes, you still got this, I know, there's this inner confidence. So it's saying here, it's not shrinking back on confidence. And it says, since then we know what it is to fear the Lord. We know that. There's a confidence and a boldness about us. But what he's saying here is we try to persuade. That word persuade in the original Greek, the original language of the New Testament, there's a smattering of Aramaic in for good measure, but in the main, it's Greek. That word persuade in the Greek literally means by sweetness to convince. It's beautiful, isn't it? A really good friend of mine, a fellow evangelist, he's the head of the Evangelical Alliance. Do you know what the Evangelical Alliance is? For those of you who don't know, it's an organization that's basically an alliance of evangelicals. Feel that's brought some clarity. I really do. And Gavin heads it up. He's a friend of Elim, actually, speaking at our Leaders Summit this coming year. It is this year now because we're in the new year. Sometimes you have to change that language, don't you, when you get into a new year. And when he took over the EA, he's got a sort of a vision for the EA, and I absolutely love this vision for the EA and for the church in the UK. He said, we want to be braver and kinder. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. Yeah, look, we've got this confidence. We know what it is to fear the Lord. Let's be braver. Like, he's on our side, or rather, we're on his side. That's the more accurate, isn't it? We're on his side. We have the victory. And we know there's some battles to work through, but we do have the victory. We're on God's side. We've got every right to be confident and bold and brave. But let's by sweetness convinced. Let's be kind. Let's go all out to be braver and kinder. So why did I ask you, how are you smelling? Well, I want to take you to another couple of sentences in the Bible that link with these few thoughts. This braver, this kinder, this confidence, this gentleness, this niceness. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 14 to 15. And I love this little collection of sentences. It says, but thanks be to God, who always leads us in triumphal procession in Christ. That confidence again, that boldness, that triumphal again. And through us, incredible, spreads everywhere the fragrance of the knowledge of him. It's beautiful, isn't it? For we are to God the aroma of Christ amongst those who are being saved and those who are perishing. I find that quite emotional often when I read. It's why it's one of my life passages. It's quite humbling, isn't it, actually, that we are the aroma of Christ. I used to pray this little prayer. I was saying this morning in the first service, I need to start praying it again. Maybe we could pray it with each other, for each other through this year. Lord, help me leave a little bit of Jesus wherever I go. It'd be great, wouldn't it? Like when you walk into a room, you bring Jesus with you. And we know that. But wouldn't it be lovely if that fragrance to those who are perishing, to those who don't know him, that they feel it too? It's like arrests them when you walk into a room. Or when you leave, it's like, whoa, something changed when that person left. I've got FOMO, fear of missing out. I hate it. I don't ever want to leave things early. Like my wife, she's an introvert. At about 8:30, she turns into a pumpkin. She needs to go home. Literally, we've had this joke that she needs to go home. Like she'll give it a good hour and 2 hours. You won't know she's an introvert because she'll fill a room. She's a vibrant, amazing person. But she's an introvert, and so her energy levels go down. And we've had to learn a little bit because I'm like a rampant extrovert. And it's like, I don't want to go home. What happened? Because like when you leave somewhere, like a party, a works party at Christmas, and then your colleagues see you the day after, they say, oh, when you left, it was amazing. That hurts, doesn't it? It hurts. I don't want it to be amazing when I've left. I want it to be not amazing when I've left. And that's not because the world has to revolve around me. Please, it's not that. I just want to so carry the presence of Jesus wherever I go that it arrests people. How are you smelling? What fragrance are we carrying? And let me just slightly change the metaphor, just to further kind of push the point a little bit. The French have this phrase, you may have heard of it, it's called a amuse-bouche. And amuse-bouche is something that's particular to fine dining in French cuisine. And amuse-bouche is a small, like canapes, or as my friend calls them, canapes. The Philistine. He's from the rough side of Bradford, not like me, And canapes, you just kind of fill your mouth off these trays of, glorified crackers with cream cheese on top, don't you? But an amuse-bouche is actually a part of French fine dining where you have this small, incredibly rich, really, you would only have one of them. Now, I've got a really rich palate, so I can knock them back from, England man and dog me. But you're meant to have one, and what happens is you gets the saliva going. It gets like your mouth and your taste all excited for the stuff that's about to come. I love that verse, don't you? Taste and see that the Lord is good. There's no denying that the Lord is good. But I wonder sometimes whether people aren't tasting because we've not been a good taste. We want to be an amuse-bouche. Literally, French translation to English is excite the mouth. That's what amuse-bouche means. Oh, Lord, this year, 2023, got it right, 2023, help us to be such an amazing fragrance, such an amazing smell, that when we've spent time with people, it gets them excited, gets their body, their spiritual appetite to want to taste and to try and see that the Lord is good. So how are you smelling / tasting this morning? Second thing, how are you running? I had to find a birthday card for somebody, and I'm not very good at remembering dates. But I live by my diary. If I don't look in my diary, I just don't remember. My life's so complicated and complex. And I'd suddenly remembered it was somebody's birthday. So I had a mild panic and went into one of these places. I like to feel I'm sophisticated in my choice of cards, but needs must. So I went into, I don't know what it was called, but it's like, like Card Factory. It's that sort of, basically cheap, tatty rubbish. You know the place, don't you? Very useful. And I walked in. I'd never really ventured into one of these places before, because normally I just get, like the cards that don't have, they're like an artwork piece and you put your own thing. That's what I put in because I quite like those. But I had to, so I went in, and there's like sections of them. Did you know there was sections of greetings cards, like to dogs, cats, and everything? And I was looking for one. It was to a friend, but as I walked past, it was from a boyfriend to a girlfriend. Well, I was fascinated. So I had a little look, thought, what do boyfriends get girlfriends? So I had a little look, and I can't remember exactly what it said on the front. And when I start to try and explain to you what's on the front, you'll realize that my romantic vocabulary is somewhat lacking, shall we say, and that I might need a little bit of help with it. But I'll attempt to give you a bit of a flavor as to what was on the front. So there was a whole list of them, and so he said, like, I've got it here, look. I would climb the highest mountain just to see you all but a speck in the distance. It's beautiful, isn't it? Some of you are crying out. You're feeling quite emotional. And then it went on to, I would walk, the driest desert just to be near you. And now I'm running out really badly. I would, let's go for jungle. I would chop through the densest jungle just to, bit of audience participation. I mean, it's rubbish, but let's do it, yeah. No, I'm going to take that back. I see what you're doing. You're chopping through a jungle. See you again. I'm liking it. I'm changing my mind. I am. I'm going to reprimand myself for that one. So there was about 5 or 6 of these, but we'll stop now because basically I'm bored myself, okay? And then I opened it up. Right, so remember all these great kind of waxing lyrical things on the cover. I opened it up, and honestly, no word of a lie, it said on the other bit, it's got the little message bit. It literally said, I'll see you tonight if it's not raining. I mean, talk about a disappointment, innit? Waxing lyrical, giving it large, verbal dexterity, and then when it came to it, actually the action, if there's anything that vaguely resembles a mild inconvenience, forget what I said on the front cover. I'm not going to be there. And I wonder sometimes whether it's possible, I certainly know it's true for me, I can talk a good fight. I can give it large. But I wonder sometimes whether for us as Christians, sometimes we talk more than the action. And it's not, sometimes it's like our intentions are good, aren't they? So I don't want to do this in a judgy, condemnatory way. That's not my style, it's not my point. But sometimes we can be caught up, can't we, in emotions and in moments. And I love moments. I really do. I think they're so important. I can identify significant moments in my life where God has done something incredible that have caused me to move on and to journey and to change. But I wonder sometimes whether we would walk the driest desert, chop the densest jungle, swim the deepest ocean, etc., etc., but only if it's not raining. And how do we overcome that? Well, I was delighted when I discovered that verse 14 of our reading, for Christ's love compels us. I was delighted when I discovered as I was studying this passage. It's a life passage, so I've done a lot of studying around it. And one commentator suggested, and I love this image, that the concept here is of a fast running river. Now, you've seen, sadly, and this is not in any way to minimize the damage that rivers can do. They can be devastating, can't they? But you've seen how a fast running river could just picks things up and effortlessly carries them along. And I'm led to believe from riverologists, which I might have just made up, well, not just, I made it up this morning. These are people that study rivers, clearly, that you can't often see how fast the river's flowing until it comes up against something like some rocks, for example. So when it talks about here, about Christ's love compels us, the idea is that Christ's love carries us along like a fast-running river. I want that. Anybody else want that? I want to be carried along this year, 2023, whatever I've done last year, however much of a slacker I was last year, I want to be carried along with Christ's love like this fast-running river, because I think that's what helps my talk match my walk. Otherwise, it's just, I want to do this, and it's good intentions. And do you know what? Can I just say, I'm up for good intentions. Because a good intention is me saying, to the best of my ability, I'll do this. To the best of my ability, I'll do this. But Lord, carry me along by your love like a fast-running river. Just carries me. I read this, it blew me away, really. It's been estimated how far the Apostle Paul walked in his efforts to spread the gospel. According to the book of Acts, he took 3 missionary journeys. The second of these alone amounted to 3,000 miles, 2,000 of which would have been on foot. I mean, I don't know about you, but I complain if the bus is late, don't you? This is next level stuff, isn't it? The average daily distance of a traveler of that time was about 20 miles, with a Roman inn being located every 20 to 25 miles, a little bit like a motorway service station. These inns were unbelievably filthy, immoral, and bug-infested. Again, a little bit like a motorway service station. Paul, yeah, that's true. Paul traveled through snowy mountain passes and spring floods. He walked through areas famous for harboring robbers and criminals. He braved wild beasts which imperiled every traveler. The travel recorded in Acts 16 alone would have covered 740 miles. That of chapter 15 would be 500 miles. And to think he was doing this not for his own health, not for his 10,000 steps a day on his Fitbit, but purely for the spiritual well-being of others. It would be true to say that Paul's outward walking was down to his inward running. Every now and then in my life, I say something profound. That's it for this decade. So I'm going to say it again. That Paul's outward walking was down to his inward running. Lord, help me to be running, to be carried along like this fast-running river, that it catapults me, it causes me, because that's how you stop being burnt out. I'm an activist. I'm not that good at stopping and pausing and reflecting. I'm more of a doer, and I've got to work on the stopping and slowing down. I've got some things in place to force me to do that, because everything within me wants to do stuff. And sometimes I think, I can't do any more. And the key isn't to do more. The key is to do less. But the bit that we do, to be carried along by a fast running river. And what kind of drives that home even more for me? Look at verse 19. He has committed to us this ministry of reconciliation. The Greek there literally means he hath put into our hands. Sometimes people come to me and say, Mark, what's my ministry? I say reconciliation. They say, no, what's my ministry? I said, no. Reconciliation. No, am I a worship leader? Or am I an evangelist? Am I a pastor? Or am I an administrator? Or what am I? Hospitality? What am I doing? Am I here? No. Your ministry is reconciliation. Your gifting, your calling, may well be as a worship leader or a pastor, etc., an administrator, a doctor, whatever. But our ministry is reconciliation, about uniting God in heaven to people on the earth, and people on the earth to people on the earth. Everything about us should be a reconciliation ministry. He's placed it in our hands, and it's the message he's given us. That's what we're about. This church, this body of people, we're about reconciliation. And that's why I love this next little bit. How are you looking? How are you looking? It's estimated by the Royal Mint that there are £3 million worth of lost pennies. You know, like pennies down like sofas or in gutters on roads. £3 million. I mean, that's a lot of money, isn't it? I have decided that by this time next year, I'm going to be a millionaire. I've got 3p so far just this year. I mean, I'm right on track. The average person over 50, this is me, I'm 52, 53, 3rd of February, put it in your diary. The average person over 50 will have spent, are you ready for this, 1 year looking for lost items. Yeah. I reckon in my family alone, just looking for lost keys and phone, anyway, going into that is bitterness, it's bitterness. Now, the next statistic, I'm not being sexist or anything like that. Don't get ready to lynch me. I'm just telling you the facts. And the facts are friends. That's all I'm saying. But they have estimated that the average British woman spends 76 hours a year looking for things in her bag. Most women at that point, when I use this, they go, yeah, fair point. Fair point. They're ready to lynch me before it. Then the truth is, yeah, all right, that's fair point. I mean, that's got to be true. Like, the worst fear in the world is when I say to my wife, where are the keys? And she'll say, it's in my bag. I'm not going in there. I went in my wife's bag one Christmas Eve and didn't come out till Easter Sunday. I am not going in there, I'm telling you. And it's like, it's mad, isn't it? Like, if that is true, the average person over 50 will have spent a year looking for lost items. I mean, how much time has been wasted looking for the lost? I mean, like, that's a ridiculous amount of time that I could use for better things. But you know what? For those of us who are followers of Jesus, that's the best use of our time, looking for lost. It's not a waste. It's not something we should do on the side. It's not a sort of a side issue. It's the priority. It is the absolute priority. And we can only really look for the lost by living out there. And I'm not talking about leaving church this morning, going sharking for non-Christians so we can start preaching at them. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about living there, intentionally living there, living for Jesus, being a great example. And verse 16, from now on, we view no one from a worldly perspective. So how are we prioritizing our time with people that don't know Jesus? But how are you looking also refers to the perspective, the attitude. Have you ever found yourself thinking, can't see them becoming Christians, maybe a family member? Maybe a husband, maybe a wife, maybe a daughter, maybe a mum, maybe a best mate that you've known since school. Oh, I can't see it. No one is beyond the rescuing power of Jesus. No one. Let's not look at anybody from a worldly perspective. And let's recognize that God has placed within us the message of reconciliation, that He's placed reconciliation in our hands. So let's start looking properly. Be so carried along by, whether you're in the room watching today or watching online during or after this service time. Why don't you just pause now and maybe just say to God, God, help me to smell well, to taste well, to run well, and to look well. And I pray over you another truth from this passage, that we are His ambassadors. Christ's ambassadors. As though God Himself were making His appeal through us. I love that. Everywhere we are, everywhere we walk, God is appealing through us to those that don't know Him. Oh Lord, may you take these truths, and rather than us feeling the pressure, help us to realize the privilege. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. Bless you, folks. It's been lovely to be with you. Thank you so much.
Jesus, nothing else matters.